Welcome back to the Joust About Careers podcast. This is the place to learn about careers from the people who are actually doing the work every day. I'm your host, Brian Brott, and this week's guest is 2015 Van Buren graduate Thomas Wolford, who works as an airline captain. In this episode, Thomas shares how he decided to become a pilot, the various paths a person can take to become a pilot, the benefits and challenges of this career, and much more. Whether you're interested in a career as a pilot or are still exploring your options, I hope that what Thomas shares today will help all of you make better career decisions and have fulfilling career journeys. Enjoy the show. Thomas, thank you very much for joining us today. And I'd like to start by just hearing what a typical day looks like for you as an airline captain.
Well, it really just depends on the day and what time we're starting. So day one, usually we're starting from our home base. So for me, that's Charlotte International Airport. So usually we have to be at the gate about 45 minutes before departure. And then during that time, we meet the two flight attendants, the first officer, kind of talk to them, get to know them a little bit. And then once it's time to get on the airplane, we'll get on the airplane, do all of our safety checks, maintenance checks, make sure everything's good to go with the airplane. We have all our required documents and emergency items and all that kind of stuff. And then we'll board up and then we'll do anywhere from sometimes one flight, sometimes four flights a day on the regional side. So that could be like Charlotte to Atlanta, back to Charlotte, and then to Birmingham, Alabama for an overnight. And then we'll stay the night there in the hotel. We'll wake up in the morning and then do the same thing over again for 2, 3, 4 days. So,
Okay, interesting. So you talking there about, 2, 3, 4 days. Is there a certain amount of time that you can be flying and then a certain amount of time that you have to take off?
yeah, so depending on the day and what time we start,
Okay.
that affects how long we can fly for. So if we have like a 4 a.m. report time, which sometimes we do nice and early, that'll be, I think, like a 9 or 10 hour duty day. I'd have to check my fancy card that tells me for sure, but I think it's 9 hours.
Okay.
Versus if we have like a noon or like 1 p.m. showtime, then we can fly for longer. So we can do 14 hours of duty
Okay.
usually.
Hmm.
Within that, that's duty. So that includes from the time we show up to the airport to the time we're released after our last flight.
Right.
Within that, we can only fly for either 8 hours or 9 hours within that 9 to 13 hours of duty, if that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of like a truck driver,
Yep.
you've got a certain number of hours that you are allowed to be on the road and then you have to take your break and so forth.
Yep.
You talked a little bit about a first officer. What's the difference between a captain and a first officer?
The biggest difference is the captain is the final authority and the one in charge of the operation of the airplane. The first officer will assist with all of that. So help set up the airplane, inspect the airplane. Um, but the common misconception is everyone always thinks, oh, the captain flies, he's the pilot. No, we switch back and forth and fly because we're both equally qualified and been through all the same training to fly the airplane. Um, it's just when the FO is flying, I'm still technically in charge, even though
Okay.
they're the ones flying, manipulating the airplane. At that point, it's more so my responsibility, I guess, to make sure that they don't break the airplane, exceed any limitations, break any FAA rules and regulations, but
Right.
they're the ones flying the airplane.
So is it really just an experience criteria that people have to meet to become the captain, or is
Yep.
it more? Okay. Okay.
Yep. We have to do, in order to get hired with an airline, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but you have to have 1,000 hours. Then once you get hired with an airline, you have to have 1,000 hours at second in command, which is SIC time. and that's what the FOs log when we're flying is SIC time. And then once you have 1,000 hours of that SIC time, then you can upgrade to captain and start logging pilot in command or PIC hours.
So a lot of things happening, and obviously a lot of responsibility in this career. So when you were in high school, what were you thinking career-wise? Were you always thinking about becoming an airline pilot, or is that something that came about after high school?
A little bit of both. So I guess in high school, I wanted to do aeronautical engineering and build airplanes. 'Cause that's what my grandpa and I did in his shop was build remote control airplanes, which also leads into some of the work I did with drones and UAS. But then I think senior year, sometime in there with Boy Scouts, I took the aviation merit badge, got to go fly in a small airplane, little Cessna. And I was like, flying is way more fun than lots of math and meetings and drawings. So then I switched to flying. So
Okay. So you didn't have a pilot's license or anything like that in high school. That
no,
all came after high school.
yep, that all came in college. Yep,
Okay. So you decided to go to the University of North Dakota, and was that strictly because of the flying program they offer?
yep,
Yeah. So
yep. They're
what?
one of the biggest and the best in the country. So
Okay. Okay. So what makes them so good as far as being the biggest and the best?
um, I guess probably just the fact that they are the biggest, because you
Okay.
have the biggest, or if you are the biggest, then you have a lot more money, and then you can put that back into your curriculum, your facilities, your aircraft, your maintenance, all that kind of stuff to improve um like the operations and that kind of stuff. So,
Right. Right.
and they've been around for a long time doing it. So,
Okay. So they have the
a lot
pedigree
to,
and a lot of
yep,
connections and so
yep,
forth. Okay. Now I know Bowling Green has a program.
yep.
Is it just smaller? Could a person get at Bowling Green what they get at the University of North Dakota, or is there a difference there?
On a basic sense, yeah, you can get all the same stuff because I believe they're also, we call it in aviation, to get your license, you need to go part 61 or part 141, and that's just the training laws that the FAA lays out.
Okay.
So most of the collegiate programs like Bowling Green, University of North Dakota, Kent State, Purdue, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Ohio State, they're all a 141 registered school, meaning their curriculum that they have come up with has been approved by the FAA to meet all of those standards, which is what allows you to become an airline pilot at a lesser hour requirement, if
Okay.
that makes sense. So if you go to an accredited college and certified 141 program, you can come at an airline at 1,000 hours.
Okay.
If you go through a part 161, which would just be, you know, grandpa has an old airplane sitting in the hangar and you hire a CFI to teach you. That works, except for you have to have 1,500 hours before you can come to an airline.
Okay. Okay.
So,
Okay.
but
Interesting.
yeah. So on the basic sense, yeah, UND, University of North Dakota, and Bowling Green, pretty much the same programs, 141, same benefits. The only thing that I guess that would say would be different would be the like facilities in aircraft, because obviously UND is bigger, so they're gonna have more money, so they're gonna have newer airplanes, better facilities, a little bit training differences.
Right.
Um, Like for us, we have an altitude chamber. We're one of the only universities that I know of in the country that have an altitude chamber. So part of our curriculum and our training is studying hypoxia and the lack of oxygen and how that affects the body. And so we'll do 2 flights in the altitude chamber, go up to 25,000 feet, take our oxygen masks off, become hypoxic, and see how it's crazy, man. You become um like that little kid game. It's like the hexagon, red and blue sphere, and you put the
Yep.
yellow shapes in it. So I had that. You take your mask off, you start out, you're doing good. Within like 60 seconds, I'm looking at the square. I'm looking at the thing and I cannot find the square to put back in the thing. It's
Yeah.
you without oxygen, it's wild. You just
Okay.
become dumb
Right, right, right,
without even trying. It just happens.
right,
And
right,
so yeah, like that kind of experience, you're only gonna get at UND. Um, Bowling Green State, Purdue, Eastern Michigan, none of those guys, they don't have that. And that just all comes down from the amount of funding that the university and stuff has.
right. Well, I'm glad you mentioned all those other schools also because I didn't realize, Purdue, Kent State, Eastern, Central Michigan. So that's interesting to know there are so many
Yep.
schools around and the idea that a person could become an airline pilot simply by, like you said, going out in grandpa's airplane with a certified flight instructor and getting those hours. But obviously, probably a little bit tougher that way,
Yep.
just because an airline is maybe not going to be sure about the full scope of the training you received. So,
Yeah. That and
uh,
that's why the FAA even says if you go that route, you have to have 1,500 hours
right,
before you can even apply.
right,
And one of the
right.
other big benefits too to the 141 schools and the university programs is a lot of the airlines have what's called a cadet program with the universities and the schools. So before you even have all your licenses and your hours, you can do your interview, you can get hired and secure that job at an airline before you meet all the minimum requirements,
Oh, wow.
which is actually kind of nice.
Right, right, right. Now, I feel like there was a time not too long ago that there was concern about the our pilot population was aging and
Hmm.
that we needed a lot of young pilots going into the field. Is it still that way, or is it they're not as big of a demand right now?
No, it's still up there.
Okay.
What really helped was all the major airlines, so Delta, United, American, all those the big three major U.S. airlines, they used to require a bachelor's degree of some sort. It didn't have to be in aviation or in aeronautics,
Oh, okay.
just a bachelor's degree, and have all the flight hours on top of that. However, due to that pilot shortage, they dropped the bachelor degree requirement. So that's helped them be able to hire a lot more without that. But
Right,
so
right.
it's slowing down a little bit, but it's still a lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So you earned your degree in commercial aviation and unmanned aircraft systems. So you worked with drones in that. Has that work with drones, did that help you as you were a pilot? Are those two completely separate things?
I mean, there's still two completely different things. The nice part, I guess, was when you're doing the unmanned aircraft like flight courses. And like UND, we have a big partnership with the military. So we had a full scale replica that the military gave us to help design checklist procedures for the I think it's the Reaper and the Predator drones.
Hmm.
So we got to go, fly that
Wow.
essentially. With that, then you're still looking at all the regular aviation pilot instruments. And so I'd say more so the flying helped me with the UAS because then you already know what all these instruments and gauges and stuff are telling you. But
Right. Is there a lot of demand for people to fly drones?
mm, I guess I don't think as much as like the aviation or like
Okay.
airline pilot side, but definitely, yeah, because military needs them, companies need them. I'm sure even real estate agents are using companies now to fly,
Right.
promo videos and all that kind of stuff. So,
Right. Okay. Now, when I think of baseball, you've got in the minor leagues and then you're working your way up to the major leagues. Is
hmm.
it similar in aviation where you have the regional carriers and they're kind of a feeder system for the big three that you talked about? Or could a person easily go from, University of North Dakota or Bowling Green or wherever and jump right to one of the big three?
I wish it was that way, but no, you have to, yeah, once you have your minimum flight hours, so if you went to a 141 school, that's that 1,000 hours. If you go through the military and do your training there, then it's 1,250 hours. And if you do it part 61 through mom and pop shops, then that's 1,500 hours. So once you hit whichever hour requirement you're in, then you can go to one of the regional airlines. And then usually you'll have to do at least 1,000 hours as a first officer before you can get hired with a major carrier. That's kind of changed a little bit the last couple of years with the hiring slowing down just a little bit. Now they want some PIC time, so then you'll upgrade to captain, do at least 500 to 1,000 hours as pilot in command as a captain. Then you can go to one of the major airlines.
Okay. Okay. As you look at your career, if everything were to go perfectly, do you see yourself being that person that's doing the international flights? Do you see yourself doing just staying within the U.S.? And really, how much say does a pilot have in what flights they want to take?
So yeah, overall, definitely want to do the big international long haul flights, either the 777 or the 787s or the A350, whichever one I can get on. But
Right.
basically, it all just comes down to seniority. Everything in our industry is seniority based. So once you get hired with that major carrier, depending on which one, whether it's Delta, United, American, even Alaskan now has 787s through the merger with Hawaii. So they'll start doing some international routes. But yeah, it all just comes down to seniority. So you bid for what aircraft and what base you want. And then if your seniority can hold it, great. If not, then you bid for every other airline and or not every other airline, every other aircraft and seat and go through that. Whichever one your seniority can hold, that's what you get.
Right.
And then once you know what aircraft and what base you're on, usually the month before, it's like we just finished our bidding cycle here in August for September. And then usually about the 6th or 9th of September, we'll start bidding for the next month. So you're always kind of a month ahead and you bid for your schedule, put in your preferences, what days off you want, that kind of stuff. Then the computer builds you a schedule. So it's
That's
all seniority based.
Yeah, that's nice that you have that flexibility. I guess when you talked about the bidding, I thought maybe it was, once a year or once every 5 years, but yeah, monthly. That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Now,
Especially because like the flights will change month to month.
oh, okay.
So one route we do this month, we might not do the next month.
I see. I
One of
see.
the other regionals will take, especially on the regional side, they will flip-flop aircraft and companies back and forth
Okay.
just based off demand and that kind of stuff.
Right. Now you talked about the 777, 877, et cetera. Obviously, those are large airplanes.
Oh yeah.
How's it different flying one of those compared to flying, your little plane that you see at the Finley Airport? Is there much difference other than the size? All of the gauges and everything else are the same. It's just the size of the airplane's different, or is it really, really different?
I mean, a little bit of both. I mean, on the basic premise, it's still an airplane.
Yeah.
It still goes forward, goes fast, gets lift, takes off, and lands. But
Right. Right.
yeah, the bigger, newer airplanes will definitely have better, we call it avionics. So that's all of our gauges and screens. The older airplanes, sitting around Finley, are going to have what we call a six pack, which are old steam gauges, all individual instruments that you have to look at. So that'll be different. And then obviously the speed at which you're going will be different. So,
How fast does the fastest commercial airplane fly?
oh boy. Well, we all know the Concorde went super fast.
Oh,
It's like
that's
Mach
true.
2. But nowadays, I think everything is usually between Mach 0.79 to like 0.82.
So
So
what's that in miles per hour?
I have no idea. You'll have
Oh,
to
okay.
convert that and add it
Okay.
add it post shop. But yeah, so
So as a
we
pilot, you're not working in miles per hour. You're working in Mach, whatever.
yeah, Mach and knots. So we do
Okay.
everything because it's a global standard.
Okay.
So we fly everything in knots
Okay.
instead of miles per hour. So I mean, we'll in cruise we'll be doing, I guess it's kind of complicated. So the higher up you go, the less air there is, which means the faster you can go through the air. But then there's
Okay.
also less air particles to hit your air sensor, airspeed sensor. So it appears that you're going slower on
Oh.
indicated airspeed, but in reality, your speed across the ground is going faster because you're going through less air.
Hmm.
Does that make any sense?
That makes sense. And
Yeah, so we'll
like you
be
said, you wanted to be a pilot because you'd have to do less math and science, but there's still plenty of that for
there's
you to
still a
do.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why once we get to cruise, then we do everything in Mach because the
Okay.
speed of sound is what we compare that to.
Okay.
So if we're going Mach 0.80, which is very common, we're going 8/10 the speed of sound.
Okay.
But that, of course, all changes on a bunch
Right.
of other
Right.
stuff.
So a lot of really interesting things. So if there's someone sitting out there, a student, whatever, who says, "Man, I really would love to be a pilot," what are the maybe the best couple things about being a pilot, and what are maybe the couple biggest challenges that someone would need to be aware of before they took the leap to become a pilot?
Um, I guess the benefits are nowadays, I'm sure everyone's seen it in the news, but we have gotten massive pay raises over the past 4 or 5 years. So the pay is really good once you do make it to an airline. Um, Other benefits, we get quite a few days off during the month. Usually we'll have 12 to 18 days off in a month. Um, and then obviously flight benefits are a very nice benefit to flying for the airlines because what that means is essentially any flight in our system, I can log in and look and see. And if there's an open seat, we as employees can list on a standby list for that flight. And then depending on which airline you go to, they all do it a little differently, either based off time of check-in or seniority. You get put on the list in order, and then if there's an open seat, you can get on the flight. So, and that's anywhere we want to go.
Right.
So I have non-revved to and from Europe several times, Caribbean, Mexico, just wherever you back home all the time. So
Yeah.
it's nice because then essentially you never really pay for a flight. The downfall is if there's no open seats, then you don't get on the airplane. So it's a
Right.
very high risk, high reward, I guess, kind of thing. But challenges, obviously, the barrier of entry getting into the airlines because flying airplanes is not cheap. Gas for the airplanes is more expensive than regular gas. So every flight hour, and you have to have 1,000 of them minimum, can cost money. Um, so it is a lot of money to get into. And then once you're in it, it's a lot of time away from home because sometimes, like I said, we'll have 4 days. So first day you leave home, then you're on the road for 4 days until you come home. So a lot of time away from home, and then weekends, holidays, until you're senior enough to hold those off. You will work Christmas, you will work Thanksgiving, you will work New Year's, you will work your birthday, you will work your parents' birthdays. It's all seniority based. So
Right.
once
Right.
you're super senior in the airline and you've been there many years, then yeah, you start to get those holidays off. You can work Monday through Friday, kind of more so like a regular job, but until then, yeah, you're working weekends, you're working holidays, you're working the early morning 5 a.m. departures that you wonder why people are taking these flights. But
That's a good point. I didn't even think about holidays. I mean, obviously, you are really important at
mhm,
holidays. We're coming up Thanksgiving and Christmas around the corner.
yep,
That a lot of people rely on you to get to where they need to go, and um, that means you have to work, like you said.
mhm,
So, yeah, something I didn't really consider before I asked that question. So
yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up. If someone wanted to get into this field, what advice would you give them as they are either, while in high school, are there things they could be doing once they graduate? What advice would you have?
I guess in high school, depending on each student's situation. But if you can get your private pilot's license before you graduate, then before you go off to any sort of training program, you're already one step ahead. However, that does require time and a lot of money. So just depends. I think you get your private at 16. So you could even do that, sophomore, junior year of high school, right after you get your driver's license. But um, other than that, then yeah, definitely just kind of look and see kind of what route you want to go, 141, part 61, or through the military, and just kind of decide ahead of time which path you want to go down to get those hours. And obviously, the 141 in the collegiate program is probably going to cost a little more by the time you do room and board, tuition, all the other classes to get your degree, plus the flight hours and the flight training all on top of that. It does add up quickly. Um, but you got to think, do the benefits outweigh the cost? The cadet programs are very valuable because you get that job locked in before you even have your hours, which is really nice. In a lot of places nowadays, because everyone saw the shortage, there was a lot of pilots in training. And so for us on the regional side, probably 98% of the people we hire are our cadets. And so if you're not one of those cadets and you're not in one of those programs, then it can be very hard to get a job at the airlines.
So as we wrap up and you look back now, you've been out of high school for 10 years, you're working as a pilot. What do you know now about careers that you wish you had known when you were in high school?
I don't know. I guess probably there's going to be ups and downs because I mean, like I said, I went to college, was on the fast track to an airline job through the cadet program I was in, and I was about 2 months away from leaving, and then the world shuts down with the COVID pandemic, and so then now all of a sudden the university shuts down. Now I have no job to then luckily get called back to the university once we opened, continue teaching, to build your hours and stuff. And then all of a sudden, 2 years after that, travel is rebounding faster and growing faster than it was pre-pandemic.
Right.
So you never really know what's around the corner. Um, could be super fast hiring, could be no hiring. So it's just very, especially in this industry, I guess ups and downs. You could have accidents, 9/11s, financial crashes, all that just depends on how much free money people have that they want to spend on travel to come fly on our airplanes.
Right.
So,
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess I also haven't really thought about how much you depend on those passengers. That demand is what impacts the number of flights and all of that.
yep.
So it all works together. Well, Thomas, I really appreciate you sharing all of this. I hope someday that I walk on a flight and I see you standing there as my pilot. I think that'd be very, very cool.
Be fun.
But thank you very much for sharing all of this. And I hope that maybe some people will reach out to you and ask you additional questions if they're interested in becoming pilots themselves. So thank you and good luck on your career journey.
Thank you.
If you liked this Joust About Careers episode, you can explore previous episodes and highlights to learn about even more careers of Van Buren graduates. To be sure you don't miss upcoming episodes, please click subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you'll know when the next episode is released. Thank you for spending a portion of your day with us, and we hope you will continue to prepare for your future by learning just about careers.